Hello. I want to make a short video to talk about some observations in the garden. I'm working here harvesting some of these snake root, and look at that I've got here. They taste like radishes, really soft tasting, like, just barely like the radish taste. So they adapt pretty well to whatever you do. I ferment them. I do wild lacto fermentation with turmeric and ginger, and then salt, of course. Look at this here. We have a friend today in the garden. I wanted to talk about something. It's a little bit delicate to talk about because these are the things that I've been observing myself doing the sacred gardening that I'm never, like, I don't really feel comfortable so much talking about these things, but I feel that my practice, that what I'm doing here, this very holistic spiritual healing practice of sacred gardening, is amenable to observing some very subtle phenomena in the garden. I get so close to all of the I don't kill any insects. I don't put herbicides, pesticides, nothing. It doesn't matter if it's like they say it's like they're safe or organic or this or that. This is like, there's no intentional killing of any animals here. And there's a deep respect for all the wild edibles. And look at this. This snake root is wild edibles. And what I want to talk about here is something that I've observed at least twice in a very profound, convincing manner for myself, and a few other times in a more subtle fashion, is the responsiveness of the plant world and the garden to intentions and love, good intentions. When intentions come from a loving place, and I suspect like there has to be a relationship that is like a bond, a deep connection that is built between the plant world and the human, the gardener, for these things to occur, or at least to be observed by the gardener. It's almost like these things are so subtle that if your conscious awareness is not fine-tuned to the more subtle aspects of this world, there's no way you will feel this, observe this. And what I'm talking about here is, let me give you this example, this snake root, okay? Now, I've been building a relationship with this wild edible for a long time, when I first discovered it. And when I first discovered it in the garden, there was just one small plant, and that was it. And I learned about it, and I saw it. What you doing, huh? You coming to see us here? And I learned about it, and I tasted it, and that was great. But I couldn't be bothered so much. It was like there's just so many wild edibles that were I was working to build a relationship, and I put it on the side. Then last year I harvested some and I fermented them, and I started building a relationship, looking at the plant, where it likes to grow and how it flowers, all sorts of little aspects like that. And there was only like a small area in this garden that had this plant, and it reproduces through roots tubers, I guess, is rhizomes. And I kind of like talk to the plant. Like, it's not talk, it's more like an internal dialogue that is more just feelings, like kind of loving feeling, you know. And so I kind of said to this plant, wow, I really love you and enjoy your presence. And it's amazing because it's like you work so hard to try to grow some food stuff, and some of the things, they're so hybridized and so genetically altered, like cabbage, for example. You know, even if it's heirloom cabbage, it's hard to grow. It's like really, like, you know, even the corn, this huge corn, even though it's heirloom, it's still difficult to grow. It requires lots of pampering, and these things are really delicious, and they just grow by themselves. So I was like kind of saying to this plant, I want to see you like thrive here in this garden. I want to like, I want to add you to my nutrition, you know, and then see what that does to my health and to my consciousness, because it's all about growing in consciousness. And the body, you know, when it's healthy, it's vibrating at a certain level, and your thoughts, your mood, your emotions, everything is connected to your nutrition and your gut bacteria and everything else, right? So you eat things that come from creation, like this here, then you vibrate with nature, and then you're not so much in the disharmony and the disease and the mode of the death forces. You're into the life forces. So what happened is that small patch that was somewhere around that area in the garden, basically during the winter, it took over. And it was basically this thick, like this here, everywhere in the garden. And I've been working during the winter, putting some wood chips to make some lanes, walking lanes, and some reestablishing some sort of structure in this garden. But so I've been harvesting basically the snake root. And so I guess, like, this is very, like, I know it's very, sounds very like wah wah woo woo, you know, kind of like spiritual mumbo jumbo, like the fairies and the gnomes in the garden, they collaborate with the human beings to do, you know, based on their intent. But I'm not really, like, I'm not so interested in putting labels like that. And I'm not like so much into that kind of mode of, you know, like, oh, this is like the elemental beings and the clairvoyance and this, that, and, you know, all these. It seems to me that's very very spiritually narcissistic in a certain way, and I tend to shy away. That's why I don't really like to talk about these things. But it also happened, and I talked about it earlier with the chia. I know with the wild amaranth, where I was like, there was the wild amaranth, I was building a relationship, and it was growing only in a certain place. And then and now it's like growing literally everywhere here. It's this little area here where I'm growing things, okay, is just packed with all of these wild edibles and medicinal herbs that have only appeared since I've been here. And of course, you know, I'm disturbing the soil, and maybe I'm bringing to surface some roots, and that's the reason why they're popping up. But that's not necessarily true, because this property is like, what, 15 acres, and I've been messing up the soil in many different places. And it only seems like this is the area where this relationship with the plant world is really like manifesting at a deep level. There are things that I wish for, that I hope for, and that I kind of ask for, that manifest themselves. And sometimes it's even overwhelming, like that snake root. Yeah, this is the this is my gonna be like where I'm gonna have all the kitchen herbs and stuff. You know, I've got two kinds of mint. I've got some green onions, fennel. There's this heal all plant here. That's a tea. This is like the original tea plant, the tea bush. You know, like there's some yarrow and basil, sage, borage, thyme, rosemary. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. And you know, it's not like I'm not trying to pull this like oh my gosh, you know, like I've got these special gifts or not. I just think that this is here, like this is something that exists where there is a relationship at a deeper level that can be established between the plant world or whatever it is that governs this governs the plants, their capacity to thrive and establish themselves, and then the human gardener, in where this relationship is like is there's a will, you know, it's a link to the will, to the gardener's will is transferred to the will of the plant, and the will of the plant is like the consciousness of the plant is transferred to the consciousness of the human beings. And the insects also play a role, and which in my intuition tells me the insects help they help the plants, they help the plants in their growth and consciousness. It's like the insects help the plants and the plants help the humans, you know, in their healing. So yeah, so yeah, I'm not asking for anything really. I'm not asking anybody to believe what I'm saying. I'm certainly not asking for money, and I'm not going to be teaching this and charging money to come to like learn at a workshop how to talk to the elemental beings. Nothing of that really, you know. It's just there's something I've been observing here in my spiritual practice of sacred gardening. This holistic love, growing in consciousness and healing practice. No killing of anything, just deep respect. Even all the weeds, there are all these weeds that someone could see as weeds and put like herbicides and all that are actually foods, you know, and they actually responded to my will, to my love for them. Okay, so that's small little wah wah woo woo portion of the sacred gardening. Hope you're not too triggered. Bye bye.